And a very pleasant good afternoon to you wherever you may be. High noon on the West Coast, 3 o'clock on the East Coast. Vasu Vadaparty here with you solo for the Make the Money and Run podcast for Monday, September 13th, 2021. How was your weekend? How were your games? How were your teams? Week one of the NFL, what a weekend it was. A lot of underdogs, 11-4 the underdogs were this weekend going into Monday night's game tonight between the Ravens and the Raiders. Major League Baseball has its division races. Most of the division races, 4 of the 6 probably are decided. There are 2 that are still going on strong right now, both in the National League West and the National League East. And the wildcard races, 5 teams still eligible or right there in the wildcard race in the National League and 4 teams in the American League. It's going to be a fun 3 weeks. The NFL had a big weekend. NFL ceremonies for 9/11 took place, very moving for all the ceremonies, and then college football had the same deal going on as well. We are here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 3 Eastern, 12 o'clock on the West Coast, Thursdays at noon Eastern, 9 o'clock, Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock on the West Coast, right here on Facebook and YouTube Live. We're sponsored. Check out our social media posts every day by 6 o'clock Eastern, as we'll have the updates for the later games and the night games as well for our picks and selections. And any updated news you can get to us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere that you can find us. We also have a Make the Money and Run podcast group page on Facebook as well, too. Welcome to everybody in on Facebook and on YouTube Live for joining us. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, celebrating 40 years in Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley's longest-serving British pub and British restaurant. You can get to them at BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-252-7262. Glad to have them aboard. Glad to have them be a partner with us as well, too, as they will cater to you, to your office parties. They will set up your events, as well as NFL college football weekends, but also don't forget during the week for happy hours and specials that they have as well, too. Check them out at 408-252-7262 or BritanniaArmsDeanza.com. You can see it on the screen. And for those of you that are listening on audio, just look up Britannia Arms of Cupertino, and you'll find all the information you need there for that. All right, let's get to it. First off, let's start with baseball. Boy, those Yankee fans, I can hear those Yankee fans all the way across on the East Coast right now. The Yankee fans are not happy. They just got swept by the New York Mets over the weekend. The New York Mets swept the Yankees. They are 3 straight. They got off to a makeup start today against the Minnesota Twins that started at 2 o'clock about an hour ago. Top of the 4th inning, the Minnesota Twins put 4 on the board, a 2-run home run by Jorge Polanco and a 2-run home run by Miguel Sano, who's hitting .216, but has 27 home runs. Polanco hit his 30th. It was 4-0 after the first half inning, and then Byron Buxton in the 3rd inning hit his home run, and that made it 5-0. The Yankees in this wild card stretch right now, they are out of the wild card race as of right now. They're 1 game back of the Red Sox in the games back, but they have the same number of losses in the loss column at 64. And the Toronto Blue Jays, who have gone 9 out of their last 10, they've won 3 in a row, plus 167 run differential. They lead the wild card. They were in 4th place. They were in 6th place, 4 games back out of the second wild card spot, and they've gone on an incredible roll. How about Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Vladimir Guerrero Jr. might be the first man in history to win a Triple Crown, and he won't win the MVP of the American League because of what Shohei Ohtani is doing. Guerrero leading the league in average, tied with Ohtani for home runs, and is tied for fourth or 3rd in the Major League Baseball, the American League RBI standings. He could win the Triple Crown, and yet Ohtani would probably be the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. But he is leading the Toronto Blue Jays. He and the pitcher tonight, Alex Manoah, have been great. Robbie Ray, their left-hander, has been the all-star for them. They are going well right now. They are off today. No, they have the Tampa Bay Rays in a big series for Toronto as they play for the wild card. The Rays are pretty well entrenched into the divisional standings. They have a 9-game lead over Toronto and over Boston. New York is 10 back, and Baltimore, forget about Baltimore. They are well back of the race right there, as we see. Baltimore's played well, though, 5 out of the last 10, and they did give Tampa Bay a little bit of trouble over the weekend. You see the baseball lines there on the bottom of the screen. Miami, Washington, St. Louis, New York, San Francisco, San Diego, the Dodgers, Arizona, Toronto, Tampa Bay to start the American League. And then the rest of the games, Houston at Texas, Odorizzi, Howard, Boston at Seattle. That's a huge Series as well. We'll get to all the ramifications, excuse me, in a second. Excuse me, doing all the talking here today. Major League Baseball, the Tampa Bay Rays have a 9-game lead, as we said. White Sox are 12 up in the Central. Houston is 7 up on the Oakland A's and the Seattle Mariners in the American League West. 3 weeks to go. It's going to be tough for Houston to be caught for a division standing. But in the wild card standings, here we go. The wild card standings, as we have them right here, Toronto leads Boston by 1 for that first spot. New York also by 1, as Boston and New York have the same number of losses, but New York officially in third place outside of the wild card looking in. Seattle and Oakland are 3 back. The Oakland A's have the day off today. Seattle is hosting Boston. As we said, we'll break down the series. There's 4 big series going on this week, the Yankees included. They're down 5-0 in the top of the 4th inning. As we said, Marlins, Nationals, Rays, Blue Jays, Cardinals, Mets, Astros, Rangers, Padres, Giants, D-backs, Dodgers, Red Sox, Mariners. The 7 games on the slate tonight. In the National League, the San Francisco Giants are 1 game away from clinching a playoff spot, which means the worst that they can do is finish in the number 2 wildcard spot. If they win any one of their games, the magic number is 1. So any win that they get over the Padres this week and probably tonight or in the next couple of days, they will be officially in the playoffs. The Dodgers, who are 3 games, let's see here. They're 3 games back in the loss column, 2 games back in the win column, 2.5 officially on the games behind, but 3 back in the loss column where it counts. Their magic number is 3 to get it in the playoffs as well. The Dodgers 3 back of the Giants in the wild card standings. How about Max Scherzer yesterday? All he's done is got a .88 ERA since he joined the Los Angeles Dodgers. He notched his 3,000th strikeout yesterday. He was perfect for 7 1/3 innings. 37-year-old starting pitchers are not supposed to do that. But here is Max Scherzer, first ballot Hall of Famer, pitching the Dodgers on his back. Clayton Kershaw is back as well. He will get the start tonight. Excuse me, I don't know what we got going on here. Anyway, so the Dodgers have Arizona tonight. The Giants have the Padres in big National League West standings. The Giants swept the Cubs over the weekend. The Cubs had been playing well, but they go into Chicago and have 2 really close games and 1 blowout as they sweep the Cubs. The Giants, the best record in baseball, 93-50. The Dodgers are second at 91-53. Tampa Bay is third at 89-54. And then from there on, Milwaukee, 89-55. So the Brewers are only 5 back of the Giants in terms of best record. Overall record, Tampa Bay only 1 back of the Giants in terms of overall best record. And that matters when it comes to World Series time as they are looking for it. But the National League West still abounds with the Giants and Dodgers. The wild card, San Diego. This is a big series. They just got swept by the Dodgers, a team that was projected to be the second best team in Major League Baseball behind the Dodgers, the Padres, the Yankees. That's all everybody was talking about in the winter. The Padres are 18 games back in the loss column of the Giants in third place in the National League West, but they are 1 game up in the wild card on Cincinnati. They're 1 game up on Cincinnati. They're 1 game up on the St. Louis Cardinals, who start a huge series with the New York Mets. Both the Mets and Cardinals fighting for that second wildcard spot. You see right here, if you're watching us on Facebook Live and YouTube, you can see that Cincinnati are only 1 back in the loss column. Cincinnati at 75-69. St. Louis at 73-69. The Padres 74-68. Philadelphia is 3 back. They are at 72-71. They lost yesterday to Colorado over the weekend. They had a tough time with Colorado this series, this 4-game series. They ended up splitting with Colorado over the weekend, a team you got to beat, especially when they're on the road. The Mets are 4 back. The Mets are 4 back after their sweep over the New York Yankees. I'm sorry, not their sweep. They won 2 out of 3 over the Yankees over the weekend. They did lose on Saturday. They blew that lead. But the Yankees did lose 2 out of 3 to the Mets. The Mets are 4 back in the loss column. They play the Cardinals tonight, a huge matchup. Rich Hill has pitched great for the Mets. He has not gotten any run support. Adam Wainwright, who's having a resurgence of a year, trying to pitch the Cardinals into the playoffs for maybe what might be his last year, might be Molina. Molina signed for 1 more year, so maybe Wainwright and Molina one more time for 2021, going into 2022. But right now the task at hand is getting them into the playoffs. So the Phillies, Mets, Cardinals, Reds, all in the playoff hunt. The Padres hold the second wild card right now. Nobody's catching the Dodgers or Giants, whoever ends up in that first wild card spot. The Dodgers are 15 games up in the loss column on the Padres, so there's no way they're going to get there. The magic number to clinch the 1 spot is 4 for the Dodgers right now, as they have 144. They have 18 games left right now, so the magic number is 4 for that. The Dodgers are on a 3-game winning streak. They swept San Diego. Philadelphia just got done with Colorado. The Mets got done with the Yankees. What a game for Francisco Lindor. The Mets fans, you were booing him all year. What did he do? 3 home runs for the Mets last night against the Yankees. The last one coming off Chad Green proved to be the difference in the bottom of the 8th inning as the Mets beat the Yankees 7-6. Lindor with 3 home runs in the game, 2 2-run shots, and then that solo home run in the bottom of the 8th inning. And Edwin Diaz turning Mets fans' hair gray. Even the 12-year-olds' hairs are turning gray watching Edwin Diaz pitch. But he managed to get out of it, even after putting 2 guys on in the 9th. But he got out of it, got the save, and the Mets ended up with a 7-6 victory. St. Louis has won 2 in a row. They played who did they play? They played the Reds over the weekend, and they beat them 2 out of 3 over the weekend. So they're able to match up with Cincinnati, and they're even in terms of 1 game back of San Diego in this wild card. So a very interesting Major League Baseball setup. The big games tonight, and we have them on the list here. As we said, those are the lines right there. We'll go through them real quick before we get out of here. The big games on the list, the Rays and the Blue Jays. Blue Jays lead the American League wild card. They're in the 1 spot right now. 1 game over Boston and 1 game over New York. Yankees still losing 5-0 in the bottom of the 4th inning. Still time for the Yankees to come back. John Gant got the start. He got injured after 2/3 of an inning, and they were able to piece it together with Lucas Farrell and now Caleb Thibar in for the Minnesota Twins. Brett Gardner leading off in the bottom of the 4th inning. So Rays and Blue Jays. Cardinals, Mets, we just documented how the Cardinals were 1 game back. Cardinals and Padres jockeying back and forth. Cardinals, Reds, and Padres jockeying back and forth. The Mets trying to make a move. They're at home. This is a chance for the Mets to win. They're at home. They play well at home. Rich Hill on the mound has pitched well ever since he got traded from Tampa Bay to the Mets. He's really helped that rotation stabilize a little bit. Adam Wainwright, 15-7, 2.98 ERA. Rich Hill, 6-6, 3.82 ERA. That game at 7 o'clock Eastern tonight. The Houston Astros look to move closer to clinching the American League West. They're going to go visit the Texas Rangers, Jake Odorizzi and Spencer Howard tonight. San Francisco Giants and San Diego Padres. Giants magic number 1, as we said. The Padres trying to stave off everybody, 1 game ahead of the Reds and the Cardinals in the National League wild card scenario that they have. The Diamondbacks and Dodgers, the Dodgers 3 back in the loss column of the Giants. Both are going to make the playoffs. It's just a matter of who wins the division and who has to play the 1-game wild card. And let me update you on that as well too. Finally, the last game first. The Red Sox Mariners. The Mariners 3 back in the American League West. I want something good to happen to those nice people up in Seattle. I want them to make the playoffs. Red Sox Yankees would be a great series. Toronto Red Sox or the Yankees would be a great series, but Seattle and Oakland deserve to be there as well too. They've had their struggles the last couple of weeks, but Seattle's in there. Logan Gilbert, their phenom, goes tonight. They can win at home. They're a good home team. Boston has a little tough time on the road. Eduardo Rodriguez goes tonight. Seattle hits left-handed pitching like nobody's business. Eduardo Rodriguez, 11-6, ERA over 5. Logan Gilbert, 5-5, his ERA as well over 5. All right, let me give you one scenario here that we went through last week. Until 2012, when they added a second wild card, teams that played in the same division that were already in the playoffs would go by head-to-head record to determine division winner and wild card. But now with the second wild card in and the elimination process, he said, is out there, regardless if you're in the same division or if you're in the playoffs, you're still going to play a game 163 to determine the division and determine the wild card because of the nature of the division going right into a 5-game series and the wild card having a 1-game elimination. Ordinarily, before 2012, the wild card would also have a 5-game series, so there was no need to have a 1-game 163 amongst division winners. Now, in the wild card scenario, if 2 teams are tied, they go by head-to-head record and various other factors to see where they will play that game 163. The winner of that game will then go play the wild card game, and then the winner of the wild card game will move into the division series. So this could be moved back a couple of days. And the way the 4 teams are going right now in the National League, that could happen. And even in the American League, that could happen as well too. Now, if you get to 3 teams, the head-to-head round robin goes into effect. And with 4 teams, the same effect, and they take the best won-loss percentage amongst all 4 teams or how many teams are involved. And they will play that out in terms of home field, in terms of where they play, in terms of group. I think they call it Group A, B, C, and D. MLB.com provides a great detail on that. You should be able to see that as well, too. All right, so Major League Baseball on the books. We'll hit the NFL and college football in 30 seconds. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for September 13th, 2021. Vasi Vadaparty here with you, your solo host. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, celebrating 40 years. Check them out for all your NFL NCAA weekend action, as well as during the week for happy hours and specials as well, too. Check them out at BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-252-7262. Back in 30 seconds with the NCAA and NFL rundown for this edition of the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vadaparty back with you, the Make the Money and Run podcast from Monday, September 13th. What a tribute. I want to just take a second here. What a tribute all the leagues and colleges did in terms of the 9/11 ceremonies and the remembrances. It was sad to have to remember that. I can't believe it's been 20 years. I remember where I was when that happened. Reach out to us in any of the social media posts where you were, who your teams are, whatever you want to talk about. Please feel free to reach out to us on any of our social media. We'll also have updates at 6 Eastern. By 6 Eastern for later games and games tonight and any updated news. MTMARpodcast@gmail.com, Facebook and Instagram. You can catch me on Twitter at VPartySports, VPartySports on Instagram as well, too. We have a Make the Money and Run Facebook group page as well that we've gotten a few members on, so we appreciate it. Britannia Arms of Cupertino celebrating 40 years. Check them out, BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-252-7262. They cater to your office parties, and they will handle all your group events. Football weekends are great to be there for. 20 TVs they have. I was told the other day that they're adding 20 TVs into they're putting a total of 20 TVs into the establishment all over, and they have a patio as well too, where they have some of the TVs out as well too. Football weekends are going to be great there. Best British food and drink there is in Silicon Valley. 40 years, the longest serving British pub and restaurant of Silicon Valley. All right, we move on to college football. What a weekend in college football. How about that? Oregon Ducks, they should be in the playoff run as long as the season goes, because that's a big upset going into Ohio State, going into the Horseshoe, and beating Ohio State on the road. A 14.5-point underdog. They didn't even have their best pass rusher. Thibodeau was out. And yet Oregon comes in. Brown, the quarterback, played well. C.J. Verdell, outstanding running back, 3 touchdowns. Dye also had a touchdown. Very fast running back that they have there. Oregon, the upset win, 14.5-point underdog against Ohio State. Not only did that make Michigan happy, Michigan ended up starting 2-0 as they beat the University of Washington and put Washington at 0-2, 30-10, Michigan over Washington in the Big Ten action. Iowa in Big Ten action upsets Iowa State. That in-state rivalry, big in-state rivalry between Iowa City and Ames, Iowa. Iowa State, a 4.5-point favorite, depending on where you were at. By the way, Michigan was a 6.5-point favorite. They covered easily. Iowa upsets Iowa State. They beat Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy even got pulled in the second half of the game, and they lose that game. They lose that game pretty significantly, 27-13, I think was the final score. I don't have the final score in front of me. How about Stanford? They look terrible against Kansas State, and they go down to USC. 17-point underdog is Stanford going into USC. Stanford embarrasses USC. They put 42 points up on that USC defense. So I liked USC coming into the year, but this is a big loss, and this will take a big hit on the USC program as far as any national championship chances or in terms of the Pac-12 championship as well, too, because UCLA looks solid in the South, and now Oregon looks solid. Utah was another team in the South that had a chance to play and keep up with the division, but they lose to BYU. It's not a divisional loss. It's not a conference loss, but BYU in their holy war, they end up beating Utah. 7-point favorite was Utah going into Provo, and BYU behind that option game, behind that run game that they have, they were able to upset Utah at home 23-16. BYU late night on TV. And Arizona got beat by San Diego State as well, too. San Diego State, a 2-point underdog to Arizona, who played well against Utah last week, but we're not able to get over the hump as Utah got their first win last week, but they ended up losing to BYU. Let's run through some of the conferences here, some of the big games in the ACC that we had. Virginia got their second win, 42-14 over Illinois. Rutgers is 2-0. They're 17-7 over Syracuse. Clemson got back on track after their loss last week, 49-3 over South Carolina State. Miami barely scraped out a win over Appalachian State. They're 1-1. Mississippi State plays great defense. Watch out for them in the SEC. But North Carolina State loses 24-10 to Mississippi State. Louisville back on track, 30-3 over Eastern Kentucky. And then North Carolina as well back on track, 59-17. The big ACC score, Florida State is 0-2. They lost to Jacksonville State 20-17 in that game. In the Big 12, Coastal Carolina beat up on Kansas. They barely covered that 26.5-point spread, won by 27. Oklahoma State gets by Tulsa. TCU gets by Cal. We talked about Iowa State. Oklahoma puts up 76 on Western Carolina. Arkansas with a big upset in that conference. The SEC comes in and beats Texas 40-21. Arkansas played well at home. Texas is a 7-point favorite. Kansas State beat Southern Illinois 31-23. Let's get to the Big Ten here real quick. We talked about Ohio State losing already. Michigan State won. Minnesota without Ibrahim out for the year. They're running back. They win. Rutgers wins. Purdue beats UConn. Randy Edsall was asked to leave the program after he announced his retirement at the end of the year, but Connecticut said no. Connecticut's going to have a rough year for the rest of this season and maybe for the next few years. Penn State 2-0. They beat Ball State 44-13. Look out for Penn State in the Big Ten. Indiana gets back on track after losing to Iowa. And Michigan, as we said, beat Washington. In the Pac-12, talked about Stanford beating USC. That's a conference game for USC, so that's going to hurt their chances. We said Arizona State over UNLV. Oregon State covers against Hawaii at home, 45-27 over Hawaii. And then Texas A&M gets a late touchdown to avoid the upset against Colorado. 17-point favorite going into Colorado. Texas A&M comes up with a victory at the end to win 10-7 against Colorado. The SEC, we'll just wrap through these real quickly. Auburn, 62-0. We talked about the SEC. Tennessee lost to Pittsburgh. Florida did not cover their 28-point spread. South Florida, they beat them 42-20. Georgia comes back after last week's big game against Clemson, 56 points by Georgia. Talked about Texas A&M. Mississippi State, great defense. They beat North Carolina State 24-10. Kentucky, a 6-point favorite, barely covered, but they did cover against the University of Missouri. Missouri, 35-28. Kentucky with the win. LSU with a win. And Vanderbilt with the upset of Colorado State, 24-21 in the upset in Colorado State, in Fort Collins. Go to the American. Cincinnati, really the only team in the American Conference. They were down 7-0 to Murray State. They score the next 42, and they go on to win 42-7 and cover. Houston's really good. 44-7. They're going to join the Big 12 in 2 or 3 years. They beat Rice 44-7. Memphis scores 55 on Arkansas State, 55-50. And UCF wins 63-14 over Bethune-Cookman. And then lastly, in the Mountain West, my conference, San Jose State Conference, Boise State had an easy time with UTEP on Friday night, as did Utah State over North Dakota. Air Force beat Navy 23-3 on Saturday afternoon. What a game that was for the servicemen. Vanderbilt 24-21 over Colorado State. San Diego State, a big upset over Arizona. Arizona's not very good, but they were a 2-point underdog, and they went in and killed them. Fresno State scores 63 on Cal Poly. Fresno State really good in this Mountain West, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And Oregon State, we talked about beating Hawaii 45-27. Nevada beats Idaho State 49-10. So we'll have all the full preview of college football come this Thursday and Friday when we have our Make the Money and Run podcast, noon Eastern on Thursday, 1 Eastern on Friday. All right, in 30 seconds, we're taking another break. We're going to hit the NFL, and we're going to hit the NFL hard. Big upsets. The underdogs were 11-4 going into Monday night's game. We'll talk about it all. We'll talk about all the different machinations and everything going on in the NFL in 30 seconds. Sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, celebrating 40 years. Silicon Valley's longest-serving British pub and restaurant, 408-252-7262, BritanniaArmsDeanza.com. All right, back in 30 seconds to wrap it up with the NFL and to preview tonight's games with some picks for this evening. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasi Vadaparty solo here for this Monday, September 13th, wrapping up week one of the NFL tonight in Las Vegas with the Baltimore Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders did not play a lot of their players in preseason, so it'll be interesting to see how they go. Baltimore has had a string of bad luck. They were coming in as one of the AFC North top contenders. They lose both their running backs. They lose J.K. Dobbins out of Ohio State. He was poised for a big second year. And then their backup, Gus Edwards. When Edwards and Mark Ingram were together for a couple of years straight, they were nearly a 2,000-yard tandem. But Gus Edwards also got hurt last week. He'll be gone for the rest of the year. So who do you go to? I was checking out the depth charts for the Baltimore Ravens. You go to Tyson Williams out of BYU. He's active tonight. Latavius Murray second on the depth chart for running backs. And then Trenton Cannon is your third-string running back tonight, according to the depth chart for the Baltimore Ravens. So Lamar Jackson may have to run a little bit as well, too. They've got Marquise Brown. They've got Sammy Watkins, DuVernay, and wide receiver. Mark Andrews, a great tight end out there for the Ravens. And then they still have a fullback in Patrick Ricard. So they're going to have to figure out a way to run that ball. Probably a lot of Lamar Jackson running the ball. Las Vegas, they'll have Derek Carr there. Josh Jacobs is questionable tonight for the Raiders. He's ill. They didn't say if it was COVID or not. But Kenyon Drake is the backup. Peyton Barber is third, listed on the depth chart that I have here. Henry Ruggs, Brian Edwards, Hunter Renfrow in their three wide receiver set. Darren Waller, the all-pro tight end. He's on my fantasy team. I've already won my week, so I get bonus points with Darren Waller tonight. Catching passes, 90-plus catches last year for the Las Vegas Raiders. The defense, the question mark. Max Crosby's got to get in there and get some sacks. Cleveland Farrell backing him up. Quentin Jefferson, Hankins, Yannick Ngakoue. A good pass rusher on the right end as well, too. But their linebackers have to play. Littleton, Perriman, Wright. Linebackers, Jonathan Abram, Morig, and Casey Hayward Jr., along with Trayvon Mullen in the secondary. They're going to have to figure out how to stop this Baltimore Ravens offense defensively for the 3-4 Ravens. Derek Wolfe out for the Ravens. Broderick Washington going to be in for him. Calais Campbell will be in as well, too. And then their four linebackers, Patrick Queen, Justin Houston, the pass rushing specialist, has had a good year with Baltimore last year after years with Kansas City. Their cornerbacks, they lost Marcus Peters last week as well, too. That's another season-ending game. Anthony Averett, Chuck Clark, Deshaun Elliott, Marlon Humphrey, who could have been Defensive Player of the Year in the National Football League. He's the right cornerback, and he'll match up against their best receivers on the left side as well, too. So that's what's going to happen in the NFL tonight. Baltimore, a 4-point favorite, the total 50 at Las Vegas. Be interesting to see how the Ravens run their offense tonight in terms of how they're going to be able to score. The Raiders' defense has not been very good the last few years, but they're at home. They'll have a crowd for the first time in 2021. It's going to be an exciting sight. If it was anything like SoFi last night for the Bears and Rams, which I don't want to talk about too much because I'm a Bears fan, and it was ugly to see, especially on defense for the Chicago Bears. But anyway, we'll get to that in a second. Baltimore, -4 and 50 the total in Las Vegas tonight. All right, the National Football League for Sunday. Thursday night, we saw Tampa Bay tear apart Dallas 31-29. It wasn't really a tear apart. A lot of turnovers by Tampa Bay there in terms of their offense. They should have covered the 9 points. The underdogs were 11-4 this weekend. 11 underdogs, 4 favorites covered, including Jameis Winston's 5 touchdowns versus the Green Bay Packers. Is Green Bay in trouble? Or is what Aaron Rodgers said in the post-game press conference, it's just one game, we got 16 more to go? I don't know. What do you think out there, Facebook land, YouTube land? What do you think? You think not playing the players in preseason has an effect on teams coming in? Because there were a lot of teams with only 3 preseason games. They did get a lot of practices in, and they did get a lot of combined practices in. But I'm not sure live game action, without live game action, helped them going into this situation. Jameis Winston takes over the New Orleans job, 5 touchdowns versus the Green Bay Packers. It wasn't even in New Orleans. It was in Jacksonville because they had to move out of the hurricane setting that they did. So a big win for the New Orleans Saints. How about the Pittsburgh Steelers? Down 10-0. They scored 20 straight, including a special teams block punt for a touchdown, a Ben Roethlisberger touchdown pass to Deontay Johnson. They cover 6.5 and beat the Bills 23-16. Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins beat Mac Jones, two former Alabama quarterbacks, 17-16. The Dolphins are 1-0. They're the only AFC East team to win in that division. 17-16 the final score. Miami is going to be a force to be reckoned with. That division is by no means a Buffalo Bills or New England Patriots dominated division anymore. Don't take the Miami Dolphins for granted as we move on into the season. The Kansas City Chiefs, they do what they do. Patrick Mahomes, 12-0 in September, 35 touchdown passes, 39 touchdown passes now. No interceptions in the month of September. They come back on Cleveland. Baker Mayfield had a chance to be a star and had a chance to take a big step in this organization, especially after that division game last year where they had a chance to win at the end. But the Chiefs came back. They did not cover 33-29. I know a lot of us were going for that 2-point conversion at the end. That would have helped a lot of us out at -5 or 5.5 and even 6 just to get the push. But the Chiefs come back on the Browns and win 33-29. The Eagles, they're 1-0. I like this Eagles team. They're the only team in the NFC East to win over the weekend. Washington got beat by the Chargers. Dallas lost on Thursday night. And the New York Giants looked terrible in their game at home against Denver. So Philadelphia, 32-6 over the Falcons. I know it's the Falcons, and I've already been on them from week 1 of the preseason. But it's still a good win for Jalen Hurts. Devontae Smith had a touchdown as well, too. 49ers had many injuries. Jason Verrett, their Pro Bowl cornerback, went down with a torn ACL. He'll be lost for the rest of the year. They're going to have to fill a already thin secondary for San Francisco. They hold off Detroit 41-33. It was 41-17 with about 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And give the Lions credit. They came back. Jared Goff came back. He's going to be a welcome addition for the Lions. They'll host the Packers, or they'll play the Packers next week. Everybody in the NFC West won as Arizona thumped Tennessee. Did not see that coming. That was one of the games I had. I had 5-2 Sunday yesterday. Arizona was one that I lost. Tennessee -3 at home. Played no defense. I understand Kyler Murray's very dangerous, but his options are very good as well too. I didn't think they'd play as well as they did defensively. They shut Derrick Henry down big time. But Arizona with a big victory. It wasn't even close. 38-13 the final score for Arizona. And the Chargers come back on Washington. I love Justin Herbert. It was one of my favorite plays. Unfortunately, I did not take the Chargers game. I wanted to see how they came out under Brandon Staley game 1. Defensively, they played great, much better than they did the last 2 years, previous regimes over there. But the Chargers look to be a team to contend. I don't know if they'll be able to contend with the Chiefs. We'll have to see when they play first one. And Denver beat the Giants on the road. Denver's got a really good defense. Teddy Bridgewater's a really good quarterback. He does not lose games. He may not be outstanding. He may not be a highlight reel waiting to happen, but he will win games for you. And Denver is right there, and their defense played really well against the Giants, forcing a fumble from Daniel Jones of the New York Giants into what turned into points. And then, of course, the Rams beat the Bears last night. Bears were right in it. First possession, first drive of the year. Turns into an interception in the end zone, in the offensive end zone for the Bears, and they go on to win 34-14. Matthew Stafford, who I love also, finally got him out of the NFC North. He is going to be a welcome addition for the Rams. Sonny Michel, who they traded for, only had a couple of carries. He did not get into the game. Henderson played well. Cam Akers out for the whole year, but Cooper Kupp, outstanding. Robert Woods was outstanding. Tyler Higbee, a tight end, was outstanding. Their defense was really good. I know it's the Bears, but their defense was really good. And as a Bears fan, I was a little disappointed in the way they played defense because that first touchdown, the defensive guys didn't even touch him down. When Jefferson caught the first touchdown pass, that was a bad play. And then the Cooper Kupp touchdown got behind the secondary. So the secondary may need a little work for that front four because they've got Akeem Hicks back. They've got Khalil Mack back. They've got pretty good linebackers. Now they just need somebody in that secondary to be able to cover guys. And I hope that they can, because otherwise it's going to be a long season for the Bears. The best thing about it is that they are in the NFC North, where nobody won in the NFC North. We talked about the Packers already. The Minnesota Vikings lose to the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati is going to be competition for a lot of people. I would not take them for granted in the AFC North as well. But what a game. The first time in NFL history that a kick to tie the game at 0-0 and a kick to win the game at 0-0 in overtime happened in the NFL, and it happened yesterday in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, coming off his major injury, looked great for the Bengals. Kirk Cousins, they brought the Vikings back and ended up tying the game at the end, but they lose in overtime. The NFC North goes winless. The NFC West doesn't lose. The NFC South goes 3-1 with Tampa, New Orleans, and Carolina. And then the AFC North has two wins as well too. Miami is the only team that won in the AFC East as well. The AFC North, 2 wins in the AFC North. Baltimore plays tonight. The AFC West has 3 teams that won: Denver, the Chargers, and Kansas City, the Raiders, trying to be the 4th to join that group as well too. All right, that's a rough look at the NFL. So let's go to our picks here. I don't have Charlie's picks yet. Check back by 6 Eastern. We'll have the night picks for Charlie. But as far as right now, the Las Vegas Raiders, I'm going to go with the Raiders tonight, +4 at home. I think the atmosphere will be great. Baltimore down running backs, down players, injured left and right. It's tough to go on the road and win on the road. Ask the Saints. They tried last year, game 2 of the NFL season last year in Las Vegas, the first Raiders home game. They won. This will be the same scenario, I think, for the Raiders. Derek Carr has weapons. Go get him, Darren Waller, my fantasy tight end. Go get him and get some points out there for him as well, too. In Major League Baseball, the Mets and Cardinals have a huge series. I'm going with the Mets, Rich Hill, even though Adam Wainwright's having a good year, but I'm taking the Mets, slight underdog at -103 with Rich Hill. I think the momentum of the weekend with the Yankees and the 9/11 ceremonies, the Mets are at home. I think they're going to find a way to get back in this wild card race, are the Mets. The Toronto Blue Jays, 124, Alex Manoah going up against the Tampa Bay Rays. They're 9 back of the Rays. They're not going to catch the Rays. Toronto needs these games to stay in the wild card race. Alex Manoah been a sharp rookie for them. Tampa Bay will give them trouble. Colin McHugh going for the Rays tonight. And then in Seattle, up in the great Northwest, the Boston Red Sox come calling. They are right there in that American League wild card race as well, too. They're holding the 2nd spot right now, 1 game ahead of the Yankees, although they're even in the loss column. Seattle 3 back of the Red Sox in the loss column. This is a big series. If they can beat the Red Sox and somehow figure out how to gain a game or 2, or they can't gain 2, but they can gain 1 game, or they can gain 3 games and end up being tied with the Red Sox, that will be a boost for Seattle. I'd like to see Seattle go. Oakland and Seattle tied at 3 back, both in the American League West and the American League wild card race. All right, we are here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 3 Eastern on Mondays, Facebook and YouTube Live. Thanks to everybody on Facebook Live, Robbie and Rick watching us on Facebook Live as well, too. Appreciate that. 3 Eastern Mondays, noon Eastern on Thursdays, 1 Eastern on Friday, Facebook and YouTube Live. Download, subscribe, rate, and review anywhere you get your podcasts. You can get them on any of the podcasting outlets you get. Don't forget to check our social media pages. Every day by 6 Eastern, we'll have the latest news and updates. We'll have more picks if it comes fruition. And especially with baseball, we'll have all the pitching changes and or listed pitchers, because when you bet baseball, you want to do listed pitchers. Don't forget, we're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, Silicon Valley's longest-serving British pub and restaurant, celebrating 40 years of the best food and drink. Check them out at BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-252-7262. I'm Vasi Vadaparty for Charlie O on assignment. We thank you for joining us on the Make the Money and Run podcast for Monday, September 13th, 2021. We will see you on Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 o'clock on the West Coast for All the Day Baseball, preview Thursday Night Football. We'll get into some college as well, too. Charlie O and I will be here for that as well. So see you on Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on the Make the Money and Run podcast.